When I first started at St. Catherine's, the other night nurses warned me about the elevators. Not in the usual way, no horror stories, no superstitions. Just a quiet, mutual understanding. Don't press 4. That was it. At the time, I thought they were being superstitious, or maybe it was just old hospital humor. You know how staff get weird about long shifts, inside jokes, ghost stories, anything to pass the time. Still, I checked out of curiosity one night. The elevator buttons went 1, 2, 3, 5, B1, B2. No 4, no burned out light, no black button. It just didn't exist. Later, I asked maintenance. They told me the 4th floor was never finished. Blueprints showed it partially constructed back in the 60s, but funding ran out and it was sealed off during renovations in the 90s. No stair access, no service corridors, just concrete walls where a floor should be. Most people forgot about it, but sometimes the elevator remembers. It was my 4th month working overnights. Just after 3:30, I am Imel. That liminal hour when the hospital feels like it's halfway submerged in some other reality. I was heading back from pediatrics, coffee in hand, when I got a page to assist in geriatrics. I hit the elevator button. When the doors opened, it was empty, clean, silent, just like always. I stepped inside and pressed 3. The elevator shuddered, then started moving, then stopped. But the door didn't open. I looked at the floor display. It read 4. My breath caught. There was no ding, no announcement, just the number glowing on the panel, red and unnatural, like it was bleeding through the LED. I told myself it was a malfunction. I pressed the button for 3 again. Nothing happened. I pressed door open. Still nothing. Then a knock. From outside, 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Coming from the elevator doors themselves, like someone was standing just on the other side. "Hello?" I said, my voice catching. The knock came again, louder, this time followed by a scraping sound, like fingernails against steel. I backed up, heart pounding. The air was different now, thick, stagnant, like the inside of an old crawl space no one had touched in decades. Then the light in the elevator flickered, once, twice, before shutting off completely. Darkness swallowed everything. I felt my pulse in my gums. I was shaking, whispering prayers, the stale coffee still in my other hand, trembling like a tuning fork. Then, a voice, close, right behind my ear. "You shouldn't be here." When the lights came back on, the elevator was still. The doors slid open with a ding. I was on 3, just like I'd asked. I stumbled out, nearly dropped the coffee, and sat on the floor outside the med room, trying to get my breathing under control. Later that shift, I pulled the elevator log from the control desk. There was no record of a stop at 4. In fact, it skipped right from 3 to 3, as if the stop had never happened. But that wasn't the last time. Over the next month, it happened again. Same time of night, same elevator, once every 2 or 3 shifts. I'd press a floor and the panel would freeze on 4. Each time, something was different. Sometimes I heard crying, sometimes whispering. Once I heard the unmistakable beep of a heart monitor, steady, rhythmic, like a flat line pretending to be normal. The 4th time, the doors opened. I know, I should have hit the emergency button. I should have screamed, run, something. But I looked. The hallway beyond was not part of St. Catherine's. The tiles were yellowed with age. The overhead lights flickered with a dull orange hue like sodium street lamps. And the walls, they were wet. Condensation streaked down them like sweat. I could smell it. Mold, copper, decay. And in the distance, under the buzz of dying fluorescence, I heard something dragging. Like a leg or a bag of bones. Coming closer, I hit every button on the panel, slammed my palm against the door close key until my knuckles bruised. The elevator jolted. The doors shut. I didn't sleep for 2 days. I tried reporting it. My supervisor brushed it off. Maintenance said there was no issue. Maybe you dreamed it, they suggested. Night shifts do weird things to your brain. So I stopped talking about it. But here's the thing. A few months later, an intern named Claire went missing during her shift. Her last known location? Inside the elevator. CCTV footage showed her stepping in just after 3:30 a.m. The doors closed. She never came back out. No trace, no signs of struggle, just gone. And when I reviewed the footage frame by frame for one brief second as the doors were closing, I swear to God. The floor panel inside the elevator showed 4. They ruled it an accident, claimed she must have fallen into a ventilation shaft, but the morgue never got a body. And in all the weeks that followed, the elevator stopped misbehaving. Until last week. I got called to the oncology ward around 3:45 a.m., took the main elevator. Pressed 3. The panel blinked, then displayed a number I hadn't seen before, -4. And this time, the elevator started going down. Have you ever taken an elevator and ended up somewhere you shouldn't be? I don't scare easily, not anymore. 12 years working night shifts in a hospital will do that to you. You see the worst of people when the world's asleep. The addicts, the drifters, the ones clinging to life with blood-soaked fingers. You learn how to breathe through your mouth. You learn the difference between a death rattle and a sigh. You learn that hospitals don't really sleep, they hum. St. Catherine's was old. Built in the 40s, patched up over the decades, but never fully modern. The walls always felt too close, like the whole place had been designed to trap more than heal. And the West Wing, the one they've since converted into administrative offices, that place was sick. Not in the clinical sense, in the other one. There was something wrong in the walls. That night started normal, quiet. It was my second shift on 3 North. Long-term recovery and post-op overflow, mostly comatose or barely lucid patients. Nothing I couldn't handle alone. I was doing rounds, checking vitals, swapping charts, restocking the crash carts. Around 2:15 IM, I passed room 311. I remember that because it had one of those glass panel doors, and I saw my reflection as I walked by. Just me, alone. My face looking more tired than I felt. I kept moving. 10 minutes later, I got the page. Patient in 311 is requesting assistance. I frowned. 311 wasn't occupied. I double-checked the assignment board at the nurse's station. Sure enough, blank. Last patient in that room, as far as I could recall, had passed away 2 months ago. We were keeping it closed until maintenance could check a busted wall heater. No chart, no bed assignment, nothing. Still, I figured maybe someone had wheeled a new patient in without updating the system. We were short-staffed. People were cutting corners. So I went back. The hallway leading to 311 was long and narrow. On night shift, only every 3rd ceiling light was on, just enough to see where you were going, not enough to feel safe doing it. The tile floor creaked slightly under my sneakers, echoing behind me like footsteps that weren't quite mine. When I reached the door, I noticed something odd. The call light above it was on, blinking a soft amber orange, but the light coming from inside the room was off. The hallway fluorescence cast just enough glow through the narrow glass panel to make out the silhouette of a bed, and someone in it. I felt it before I saw it. That pinprick tingle along the back of my neck. My gut tightened. Still, I knocked. Room 311, this is night staff. Did you need assistance? No answer. I knocked again, a little louder. Nothing. No movement. I tried the handle. The door opened with a soft hiss. Inside was freezing. The kind of cold you don't get in a hospital room, not from a busted heater. It felt unnatural, like the kind of cold that seeps up through the floor, like it had been waiting for something warm to touch. The overhead light didn't respond when I flipped the switch. Broken. Or cut. But I could see him. A man lying in the bed, his back to me. pale, bald, barely rising with each breath. He didn't respond to my voice, didn't flinch, just breathed, slow and shallow. The bed sheets were crisp, white, tucked hospital tight, too clean, no signs of fresh admittance, no ID bracelet, no IV pole, no vitals monitor. Just the man, the bed, and the dead silence. I took a few steps in. My fingers brushed the call button cable. It was dangling loose, snapped clean through like someone had yanked it with enough force to tear it from the wall. That's when the man moved. Not like someone waking, like something being turned. He rolled to face me, not fast, not slow, just wrong, like he was on a pivot, not bones and muscle. And when I saw his face, God, his eyes were gone. Not gouged out, not bloody, just gone. Deep hollows, too dark, too wide. Skin stretched smooth where eyebrows should have been. Lips slightly parted. But what chilled me most, he was smiling. Not with his mouth, with the rest of him. Like his whole body was grinning. And somehow, he was looking at me. I know that doesn't make sense, but he was. I felt it in my chest, like pressure behind my heart. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't even look away. Then he whispered. No sound, just mouth shapes, over and over again. You were here, you left, you came back. Then he started sitting up. Slow, mechanical. I ran. I don't even remember backing out, just the hallway blurring past, lights stuttering, a buzzing in my ears like static turned up too high. I made it back to the station, slammed the door shut and locked it. Took me 10 minutes to stop shaking. When I finally got the courage to call security, they found nothing. Room 311 was empty. No patient, no sign anyone had been in the bed. The air wasn't cold anymore. Even the snapped call wire was intact, as if it had never been torn. They pulled the logs, no transfer to that room, no record of a page coming through, just a gap, like something had glitched the whole system. But here's the part that haunts me. The next morning after I clocked out, I checked the patient record archives. Room 311's last occupant was a man named Douglas Keller, 71, terminal lymphoma, refused pain meds for the final week of his life, died in his sleep, left a note apparently, scribbled in pen on the back of a napkin from the meal tray. I'll stay where it's quiet, the walls hum my name. That napkin's still in the file. I took a picture, don't know why. Some part of me thinks I'll hear those words again. Later that day, I found a handwritten note on the edge of my clipboard, curled at the corners like it had been soaked and dried. Same handwriting as the napkin. It read, "Don't come back, he's waiting for you." I never set foot in that wing again, not even after they turned it into offices. But sometimes, when the hospital gets too quiet, I swear I hear the call light in room 311 blinking again. And when I walk past the directory board, there's always a little flicker, like room 311 wants my name back. I wasn't supposed to be on morgue duty that night. Hell, I didn't even know nurses could get assigned there. But St. Catherine's was short-staffed again. Story of the century. And I was told to assist a transport tech with body relocation. Standard procedure, they said. Quick in and out. No one told me it would be a code gray, or that the body was still moving. Let me back up a bit. It was late, around 3:10 a.m. when I got the call from the supervisor. A John Doe had been declared about half an hour earlier in the ER. No ID, no family. Paramedics had found him unconscious near a bus depot with severe head trauma. He coded on the table during triage. They needed someone to help wheel the body down to the sub-level morgue until autopsy clearance. Sounded simple enough. I was tired, but I didn't mind helping. The night had been oddly quiet, which always puts me on edge more than chaos does. Hospitals aren't meant to be quiet. Not the old ones, anyway. When it gets too silent, the place feels like it's holding its breath. Anyway, I met Alex, the transport tech, outside the ER. He was maybe 25, covered in tattoos, and had the vibe of someone who'd seen more than he let on. We exchanged nods, no small talk. The body was already zipped into a black bag, placed on a stretcher with the sheet tucked tight around it. I noticed right away the tag on his toe was missing. "We're not sure who he is," Alex said, as if reading my thoughts. "No wallet, no fingerprints on record, nothing." As we rolled the gurney down the corridor, the hospital's lights dimmed overhead, like they always do on timers after 3:00 IMing. But this time, they didn't come back on. Just a flickering pulse every few seconds, a broken strobe of sterile blue. We reached the elevator and pressed B2. That's when it started. A twitch. Just a little one. Barely a bump. Like a shift in the weight of the body. Alex and I both felt it. We locked eyes. "Could be post-mortem reflex," I offered, but my voice was too flat. Even I didn't buy it. "I've seen bodies move after death," he said quietly. "This doesn't feel like that." The elevator pinged, and the doors creaked open to B2. The air hit me first. Cold, wet, like something had been crying in the walls. The morgue was mostly dark, save for a few red emergency lights blinking like heart monitors that had flatlined. The silence down there? It wasn't just quiet. It was wrong. Heavy, pressed against your chest like it didn't want you breathing too loud. We rolled the stretcher through the double doors. Then the lights flickered, and he moved again. This time, it wasn't a twitch. It was a curling. From the inside of the bag, something arched upward, back rising, shoulders contorting, and we heard it. A breath. Inhale. Wet, long, like a drowned man remembering how to breathe. "Shit," Alex whispered, backing up. "He's alive!" But no, he wasn't. His vitals were flatlined. No pulse, no brain activity. I should have hit the emergency call, should have alerted the floor. But I couldn't. I was rooted to the tile, staring as the zipper on the body bag began to slide down on its own. The head emerged first. Pale skin, bluish gray. Lips chapped and parted. Eyes wide open, staring right at me. And then he spoke. No movement from his mouth, just a voice. "You left me in the cold." Alex dropped the clipboard and ran. I didn't blame him, but I couldn't move. The corpse was still staring, even though the rest of him didn't move. Just the head, tilted too far to the side, like the neck had no bones at all. "You called me a John Doe," it rasped, "but you knew me. You knew what I was." The body shivered, rattling the metal stretcher. Fingers twitched inside the bag like insects under fabric. "I'm not done yet," it hissed. "Not until I take someone with me." I backed out of the room, whispering every prayer I could remember from childhood. And then, just as I reached the hallway, the light snapped back on. The cold was gone. Silence returned to normal silence. When I peeked back through the window in the morgue door, the stretcher was empty. Not just of the body. Gone, everything. Stretcher, bag, tags, chart. Erased. When I finally found Alex, he was sitting on the floor of the stairwell, shaking like a leaf. "They made me sign a form," he muttered. "Said I imagined it, that the patient was rerouted to another hospital. But I felt him. You did too. He wasn't dead. Or, he wasn't just dead. I never got an incident report. No record of the transfer. Not even a 911 record for the guy being brought in. But sometimes, when I walk past the cold room, the light above the door blinks 3 times. Just like it did when the elevator hit B2. 3 times. Like a warning. Like he's still waiting for someone to come back. When I first started at St. Catherine's, they gave me the night shift because I was new, and because I didn't ask questions. But I should have, especially about room 733. The hospital has 6 floors. Oncology's on the 5th, pediatrics on the third, and a wing of private care rooms sits quietly on the second floor. Rarely used, mostly filled with legacy patients whose families pay obscene amounts of money to keep them in what we politely call extended care. Room 733 is at the very end of the second floor, past a hallway most nurses don't walk down unless they absolutely have to. The door's yellow, not painted, but wrapped in a thick, aged plastic film. Sealed at the edges, bolted. Someone scrawled isolation across it in red grease pencil, and beneath that, smaller letters in Sharpie that have faded over the years. Do not open, no matter what you hear. The lights at that end of the hall are always dimmer, always flickering. Maintenance claims it's a wiring issue. They stopped sending texts down there after someone got locked inside the janitor's closet overnight and refused to say what they saw when they were let out the next morning. Most nights that hallway stays quiet, but sometimes it knocks. Softly, rhythmically, like someone on the other side is counting the seconds. I first heard it on a Thursday. I was checking vitals for a patient in 720 when I noticed the lights down the hall flickering more than usual. I paused, listening. The whole ward was still, no movement, no voices. Then, knock, knock, knock. I walked to the nurse's station and casually asked Anna, an older nurse who'd worked there for 20 years, if anyone was assigned to the end of the hall. She looked at me like I'd grown another head. "Don't go near 733, she said. Just don't." When I pressed, she sighed and leaned in close. "Back in the ADS, she whispered. They admitted a man who claimed he'd died 7 times. Said each time he came back, he brought something with him." I thought she was joking. She wasn't smiling. They kept him under heavy sedation, but he'd wake up. He always woke up, sometimes with things in the room. Dead birds, black mold growing on the ceiling tiles, once even a mass of teeth. Just teeth, like they'd been coughed up by the walls. "What happened to him?" I asked. She didn't answer. Just said, "Room's been sealed since 1991. That night, after rounds, I walked down there. I know, I shouldn't have. Curiosity's a disease in places like this. The yellow film was cracked at the corners, brittle and curling. I leaned close. The silence was absolute. Then, right as I turned to go, I heard my name, whispered, clear as day. "Lena." It came from inside the room. I backed away, pulse thudding in my neck. The next night, it happened again. This time, I brought a flashlight. I shined it around the cracks between the plastic and door frame. The light didn't bounce back. It just disappeared, like the space inside the room was a void. And then I saw it. On the floor, inside the room, just visible past the crack. A handprint, pressed in blood, fresh. After that, the knocks got louder, more frequent. Some nights I'd be in the middle of charting vitals and I'd hear someone breathing in the hallway, a slow, wheezing inhale like lungs full of ash. One night, a float nurse named Kelsey was assigned to that wing and didn't know the rule. She heard the knocks. She thought it was a confused patient. She opened the door, only for a second, but it was enough. She collapsed in the hallway, screaming. Said something had climbed up her arm, something cold with no skin. She clawed at herself until she had to be restrained. They moved her to psych the next morning. I visited her once, just once. She wouldn't look at me. All she said was, "It wears your voice, it wears your face." Security sealed the door again after that. Double bolts this time. But some nights, it still knocks. And now, it says more. "Let me out." "I remember you. I'm getting hungry." Last week, someone slipped a note under the break room door. No name, just 6 words. There is no room 733, but I know what I heard, and I know what waits behind that yellow plastic. Ever had a door you wish you'd never opened? If you work in a hospital long enough, you get used to certain things. The beeping of machines, The smell of bleach and blood. The way time stops around 3 a.m. and nothing feels quite real anymore. But there's one thing I never got used to. The man in bed 12. When I started on the surgical recovery floor, I didn't notice anything unusual about room 206. It was just another 2-bed room, tucked at the far end of the wing. Nothing particularly strange about it, except that bed 12 was always occupied. Every chart listed a different name. Every attending claimed to have admitted him, but when I asked for specifics, diagnosis, treatment plan, family contact, answers got murky. They'd say things like, he's stable, or just observe him overnight and then trail off, like they weren't sure what they were talking about. I first met him on a Tuesday night. I'd finished rounds and was double-checking vitals when I noticed his curtain was drawn. Evening, mister? I checked the chart. No name. Just bed 12 OBS. I gently pulled the curtain aside. The man lying in the bed was completely still, breathing, but barely. His skin was pale, almost translucent under the fluorescent lights. Not old, not young. Just there. Like a rough draft of a person, unfinished. I asked if he needed anything. Water, blanket, something. His eyes opened, and I couldn't move. There's no easy way to describe it. His stare wasn't hostile or scared. It was just too long, like he was looking past me into something behind my eyes. Then, without blinking, he said, "You're not supposed to be here." I blinked, and he was asleep again, like nothing happened. I backed out of the room and tried to laugh it off, but that wasn't the last time. Each night, he'd say something different. Once, they cut me open, but I'm still awake. Another time, you look just like her. And my least favorite, don't answer the phone tonight. I told my supervisor. She just sighed and said, "We've had issues with bed 12 before." I asked what kind of issues. She didn't answer. Later, I asked the charge nurse if she'd ever discharged the guy in bed 12. She frowned. "No idea who you mean." I checked the digital log. Bed 12 didn't exist in the system, just bed 11. And yet, every night, a man was there. One shift, I snapped a photo of him, just to prove I wasn't losing my mind. When I looked at it later, the bed was empty, but the shape of a man was pressed into the sheets, like someone had just gotten up. Things got worse after that. Some nights, the call light for 206 would flash, even when I wasn't assigned to the room. I'd walk in, and the curtain would be drawn, not all the way, just enough to see someone standing behind it. But when I pulled it open, the bed would be made, and the man, gone. Then the dream started. Always the same. I'm in his room. The monitors are off. The walls are too far away. The light over his bed is buzzing, and when I turn to leave, I see my own body lying in bed 12. Eyes open, mouth full of something black. I started taking extra shifts just to stay on different floors. Pediatrics, ER, even psych, anywhere but surgical recovery. But no matter where I worked, I saw him. In reflections, in empty rooms, once in a hallway mirror where he should have been behind me, but instead he was smiling, holding a nurse's badge that looked just like mine, but soaked through with something dark and wet. They say the hospital used to be a war clinic, decades before it was rebuilt. That room 206 was part of the morgue. Some say he's a patient who was declared dead and never stopped checking in. Others think he's something older, something that wears grief like a skin. But I don't care what he is, because last week my badge logged into bed 12's chart. I didn't do it. And when I opened the file, it had just one note, time-stamped for 3:33 a.m. You're ready now. Tonight I'm on surgical recovery again. Room 206, bed 12. The curtain's already drawn, and I swear I saw it move. We don't talk about code gray. Not in the way we talk about code blues or code whites or even the occasional violent outburst in the ER. Code gray is different. The staff at St. Catherine's use the term when we don't know what else to say. It means something's wrong. Deeply wrong. But no one can explain it. The first time I heard it called, I was 3 months into my night shift rotation. It came in over the intercom at exactly 2:44 a.m. Attention all floors, code gray, Ward H. Ward H is technically closed, an older surgical unit gutted and left in disuse after a failed remodel years ago. No patients, no lights, no reason to be there. So why call a code? I asked around, no one answered. One nurse muttered something about a systems test. Another said, "Don't worry about it, it happens every few months." But she wouldn't meet my eyes when she said it. That night, I had trouble sleeping. And then, a week later, it happened again. Code Gray, Ward H. This time, I noticed something new. After the announcement, the power flickered. Just a second. Just long enough for the hallway lights to hum, dip, and come back. But enough to make me look. The monitors glitched. All the clocks reset to 2:44 a.m. I checked the log. The call had gone out at 2:41. How did the clocks know before we did? I didn't sleep for 3 days after that. My breaking point came 2 weeks later. I'd just clocked in, barely caffeinated, flipping through reports when my phone buzzed. Private number, no ID. I answered, thinking it might be a call-in. Instead, a voice I didn't recognize whispered, "It's already inside." Then the line went dead. At 2:44 a.m., Ward H lit up on the monitor, despite being disconnected from the hospital grid. A single heartbeat registered on the vitals screen. One patient. Room 1. No name, no age, just one word. Penned. I thought maybe it was a glitch, maybe a prank, but curiosity is a parasite. I went down. The hallway to Ward H was colder than the rest of the hospital, like something had drained the heat out of the walls. The door was locked, officially anyway, but my badge worked. Shouldn't have, but it did. The ward was dark. No lights, no power, just the red glow of an emergency exit sign at the far end. And in the middle of the hall, a gurney. I swear to God, it hadn't been there when I walked in. There was something under the sheet, still, covered completely, but with the outline of a body. I stepped closer, and the lights, the ones that shouldn't have been on, flickered to life. A flatline monitor beeped once, and then the body sat up. The sheet slid off its head. It was me. Pale, bruised, dried blood at the nose and ears, my name tag still clipped to my uniform, twisted and bent like it had been through a fire. It opened its eyes, black, like two holes in a photograph, and then it spoke. "This is where you end." I ran. I didn't stop until I reached the main floor. I tried to tell the supervisor. They acted like I was hallucinating. Said I needed a break, gave me 3 days off, no questions. But that wasn't the end of it. Because when I came back, every shift at 2:44 a.m., my watch stops. Just for a second, and room 1 in Ward H logs a new vital spike. No one else can see it, not on the monitors, not in the system, but I see it. Every time. And the heart rate? It matches mine, exactly. Last week, someone scrawled a message on the mirror in the staff bathroom, written in what I hope was red marker. Code Gray means you've already died. I've stopped sleeping again. Tonight, I caught a glimpse of myself in the reflective doors of the elevator. But it wasn't my face. It was his. Have you ever felt like something's watching you, and it has your name? Thank you for watching this story. If you're new, please subscribe, like the video, and share it. Let us know your thoughts about this story in the comments.